Okay, so here's a quick demo to show you how to use the Envelope Distort function in Illustrator to manipulate patterns. So without using the Envelope Distort function, I've got my sweater here with a fill, and while I can rotate this to reflect proper placement here using my tilde key, this pattern does just sit vertically. There's no movement within the garment, so it doesn't look very natural or organic. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this pattern and create a more organic look. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pattern into the document, and we will find it in, I think, week 5. Here we go, and I'm going to place that. I'm going to, it's already embedded, so I'm going to drag it over here. And then to start my Envelope Distort, I'm going to take this rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle start with no fill, no stroke, over the main body section of my flat. So I'm going to start with that first. And you really only need to fill just the body section. So I'm going to move this in a little bit. And you can even move this up. Then I'm going to fill this with, I'm going to make sure it's in the fill, with the repeat that I just brought in that was edited in Photoshop earlier. I want to double click this and I'm going to scale this pattern, so only transform patterns is checked here. Let's scale it to 30% preview. I think that looks a little small. Let's do 15. How about 20? Split the difference. That looks good. So I'm going to click OK. Next, I'm going to right click. Oops. Edit, redo, edit, redo. Okay, so you're going to right click and you're going to arrange and you're going to send this to the back. Then you're going to select the inside of the sweater and you're going to change the opacity to 50% so you can see through and you can see the pattern. And then lastly, just to make things easier when I'm trying to edit later on, I'm going to lock the selection. Now I'm going to select my rectangle and I'm going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Make with Mesh. Now you don't want too many rows and columns because that's going to make your file a lot bigger, and in general this technique does tend to make your file a little bit bigger. So we can preview 4 and 4 is fine for this sweater that we're doing. That looks good. I'm going to click OK, and then just to double check I'm going to go to Object, Envelope Distort, Envelope Options, and I'm going to make sure Distort Pattern Fills is checked here. So we're going to click OK. Now I'm going to use the Direct Select tool, and then I'm going to edit these anchor points and handles, and I'm going to drag them, and as you can see, the pattern fill is dragging as well, and it's becoming distorted. And basically you just play around. Make sure you keep everything filled so the fill stays inside. And you can just drag these and adjust. Again, the handles are going to be helpful to adjust so that you're creating this natural movement within your pattern fill. So I'm going to move this in. Do this as well. I'm going to Command Z. As you can see, I didn't lock that, so it's kind of causing problems, but nothing we can't work around. And then I'm just going to keep editing until I'm happy with my results. I might actually bring that out a little bit so it follows that shape there. And then you can do the other side. I like this shoulder to kind of be a little bit more natural. And you'll just have to play around with it to see what makes sense for your Command Z, for your pattern fill and your garment. This technique I probably wouldn't necessarily do for every single flat that I did on the job, maybe just a very specific pattern that really, or garment that really needs to sort of show the movement, or if I'm doing this for my own personal portfolio where I want my flats to just look really, really on point, I would probably do that. So I think that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to click out to get out of that, and I'm going to unlock everything else, and then I'm going to use this shape to make a clipping mask with my envelope mesh here. So I've selected the body shape and I've selected the mesh behind. I'm going to right click, arrange, make clipping mask, not arrange. And then I'm going to go back to my direct select to select this. And I'm going to click that, and then I'm also going to edit my stroke to be 0.75 because that's what I'm using for my seams, and then I can later add my heavy outline. So that's how you use the envelope distort. You could do the same thing for the sleeves. I'll just do real quick. We can do one. I'm going to hit I. Nope. And we'll fill it, double click, we'll scale it, click OK. We're going to arrange it to the back. And now in order to start in a better place, I'm going to just, I'm going to rotate this. So I'm starting with the knit in the correct direction. I'm going to take this to 50%. Opacity, and I might need to rotate this just a little bit. Okay, so now you can lock this, object, lock, selection. You'll select your rectangle, and you're going to go object, envelope, make with mesh. Maybe we only need 2 columns for this. Let's preview that. I think we'll be able to work with that. Let's say OK. And then you're going to just start moving the anchor points with the direct select. And it just takes some playing around with. Okay, I think I'm pretty much satisfied. Bring that out a little bit. So then when you're done, you can object unlock all. You can then select both shapes, right click, make clipping mask. And then you'll take your direct select, shortcut A, and select the outline, and then I'm going to edit this to a 0.75. So that's how you would do the sleeve. And then we can back up here, and you can see how much more organic and realistic this looks compared to this. Again, this will take up some space in your files, so choose wisely when you want to use this function. And yeah, that's how you do envelope distort.